Welcome back, everybody. I'd like to bring you in on part 4 of the 100-year-old school desk reclamation. We've got some interesting stuff here to work on today. We're going to talk about the bench after the glue up. See you in a bit. And what I've decided to do with my crosscut sled is we're going to cut along this line, and I have it secured with that piece. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut along the line. It's just long enough, my reach is just long enough on my miter saw to bring it down. So I'll do that on both ends. And let's make a cut here, and I'll bring you in just a bit. Okay, as you can see here, we have used a miter saw and we've cut both edges. What I did is when I took a look at it is I wanted to split the width of this last one as much as I could, what I would say in half. I wanted as much of the half to be glued. I didn't want to have any small little piece over a period of time. What we're going to do next, I'm going to bring you in, we're going to go ahead and rip this jewel on the table saw. So we are ripped to width and we are ripped to length. We're going to have to deal with these corners. The question is, how do I want to take these corners off? Do I want to go ahead and use a jigsaw? Do I want to just trim them and then sand them? Well, I haven't decided yet. And then the next step is, by the way, you hear the beautiful sound of those children's footsteps upstairs. That's lovely. We got to decide, what do we do with this and this? We're going to probably do the same thing we did with a miter and then come back in with a Forstner bit and then come back in with a jigsaw and take care of that. But we're pretty much getting there. Bring it back in once I know more. So after a few minutes of kicking this around a little bit, I've decided it's time to crack out the Makita. I'm just going to go ahead and round over those corners. It seems to be the easiest, probably smartest thing to do. While you're away, I took the opportunity to use this original leg that was there for the seat, and I used it as my stencil, if you will. I used it as my pattern, and I sketched it out, and I drew the lines that you can see here. There seemed to be a current theme here. When I cut this, I didn't add that additional. I'll fix it on the next one. I just made it a little bit short, so I had to put on a small piece. Not ideal, but it's going to be okay in this situation. But normally I would never, a piece of real furniture, I wouldn't leave that. So what I've done is I've taken this, cut it, and drawn my pattern around it. I've taken and made this black, the areas that I'm going to cut off. And I've drawn a line across here, which is where I'm going to go ahead and use that as this section. And I'm going to use the table saw to cut that piece right there. So I want to cut the table saw right around here. And I'm going to take you over to the table saw and show you what that looks like. Okay, as a little safety tip, I do not have the fence here, but I always keep this blade in here, that knife, and I use it to, when you bring your wood through here, if you don't have it, the possibility it catches is going to grab the wood and pull your finger in and cut it. So I always leave that in, except for the situation that we're in here with this board. It's not going to be possible, so I have to be uber careful. What I've done is I've raised the board, the level, upside down there, sorry about that. I've raised the blade to the height of that line. Then I've set the fence to that thickness. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire this baby up. I'm going to run the board through, turn it around, run it through a second time. Then I'll take the jigsaw and then I'll trim this out. I can't do it here. I could, but boy, the math would be involved, and I think I have a history of math issues. I could, but I'm going to use my hand plane, and my handsaw, and I'm going to cut that level out to make my tennis, mortise and tenon joint, which you'll see. All right, bring you in when that's done. And there's the finished product, you can see. That's one of the more dangerous cuts that I make. I was careful to keep my hands out of the way. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my jigsaw, cut this out, bring it down to the end, and then I'll probably leave that piece until I go over to my miter saw and cut that angle over there. So I took the jigsaw and I cut out these pieces, and I cut out those pieces. And now I'm going to take and cut this out. I like to, on cuts like this, I like to use a little precision. So I set up a stop block, if you will. And what I'll do is I'm going to ride this saw that I have, this crosscut saw that I have, up against this guide. It helps me cut it a little bit straighter, makes it a little bit nicer. Now we're moving our attention over to our seat. And what I'm going to do is I'm taking our Forstner bit we have here, and I'm drilling 2 holes, and then I'm going to go through here with our jigsaw, and I'm going to cut that out. I'll do that to all 4. This helps me get in there by hogging out that material. It's going to make it a lot easier to go ahead and finish this. Once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and sand it. I'm going to go ahead and round the edges. I'm going to go over it with my trim router to kind of round the edges off, and we'll get back here and see what it looks like when we're done. One of the problems that you run into here is with these smaller Forstner bits is they can jam up on you. So you have to make sure you go in, come back out, let it clear the debris, and go back in. I have a board underneath here to keep me from going down, bring it out, clear. Try it again. You can see the jams up quite nicely in there. And you're through. Well, that ends part 4 of the video. We'll bring you in on part 5, where we should be getting closer to assembling, a little tweaking here and there. Until then, cheers.